Hey guys, this is Project StarCraft, coming at you from Entombed Valley, one of the newer maps in Blizzard's ladder pool. Casting a Zerg versus Protoss. Spawning in the top left, about 10 o'clock position, we have our red Zerg, Ezroll. Ezroll! Ezroll! In our bottom left-hand position, spawning as the blue Protoss, our hero from Reddit, /r/castit, we have Pinnapple. I think it's supposed to be pineapple, but we're going to run with Pinnapple. Now, Entombed Valley is, like I said, one of the newer maps that are on the ladder pool. You have a pretty big base for your main base. It leads down to a small ramp, and it leads to some very interesting choices from here. A big ramp leads into what's considered your natural base. Some destructible rocks lead to your third, which actually has a large ramp right there. The map has plenty of expansions or plenty of places to go, so it does support some macro play. One Xel'Naga Watchtower in the middle of the map really doesn't cover much. So most of the attack paths are going to be from this point up into the other base. So the Xel'Naga Watchtower might catch some things, but you can be deliberate by walking around this path. Now Pinnapple looks like he's going to do a Forge Fast expand, which with some clever walling and some utilizing some of the other buildings that are right here, you can be able to wall that in. And we see what looks like to be about a 12 or 13 pool from Ezroll. Now the interesting thing that we're going to see from both players is that Ezroll utilizing the early spawning pool in order to ascertain map control. And it's important to note when he gets his gas. Now Protoss getting a Forge Fast expand can normally lead to a lot of different openings. Either a several gateway charge, normally followed up with +1, maybe some Stargate play. It really is up to Pinnapple in deciding what he wants to do. Now this drone being very, very pesky for Ezroll. Actually might take out that probe if he's not too careful. Now as we can see in the production tab and on the mini-map, Ezroll decided to take an expansion at about the 16 or 17 feet. And doing a good job of actually delaying this expansion. Pinnapple actually having to bring down another probe. And he's actually going to put down the cannon first. Normally you'd put down the cannon if you think that you're a little bit at risk, but Pinnapple deciding that he wants to get that cannon at least to provide some cover from there. Expansion's about halfway done for Ezroll, so even with this Forge Fast expand, he's actually going to take a slight lead. Ezroll looked like he's microing a little bit too much down here, blocking that expansion. That might be okay. But he's got this extractor that's not utilizing any gas, so he might be going for a speedling opening, but I wouldn't know that. Ezroll being very, very clever, actually building a hatchery down there, or actually he's utilizing a hatchery trick in order to build an evolution chamber. So you would build your hatchery, cancel it immediately, and with the creep that's there, actually build an evolution chamber. Now with this cannon that's close by, he's actually not going to be able to hold it for very long, so I would see Ezroll canceling this, but he decides not to. Actually, those broodlings are actually going to provide a little bit of damage. Might actually take out a probe or two. He actually decides to micro the broodlings. So, does he take out the probe? No, he doesn't. So now the interesting thing is going to be to see how Pinnapple decides to respond to this, throwing down a gas pretty early. And he's got 2 gateways, and he's actually going to be, looks like, to build a couple zealots. Ezroll has taken quite a bit of gas. He actually pulled all but 1 off, but hasn't decided to do anything with the gas yet. So he hasn't gotten speed. He hasn't thrown down a roach horn or anything else like that. He's still playing pretty passive. Now just putting down his metallic boost. So we got about another 110 seconds, about another 2 minutes before Pinnapple has to worry about any kind of zergling speed or any kind of major run by. Well-placed Overlord from Ezroll to determine when an actual third is coming, or decide when those rocks are going to be destructed. And this is a pretty tight wall from Pinnapple. Now, Ezroll taking a third, and he's throwing down some defensive spine crawlers. Now, he has kind of an idea of what's going on, but he doesn't see a cybernetics core, but he's throwing down the spine crawlers just in case there's any kind of shenanigans, since he doesn't have any kind of army right now, and he's actually taking a fast third. We see 2 gases from Pinnapple and Chrono boosting out the Warp Gate tech. And +1 is a good chunk done, about 25%. So now my question, at least in the early game, is going to be, was Ezroll's micro and focus on that initial drone and the cost of that initial drone, is that going to be worth it in the long run? That's going to be the question that I'm going to be asking. Ezroll building 7 drones behind this defense, and actually an 8th drone. So Pinnapple looks like he's going to be utilizing some gateways and a +1 timing. Actually building 2 sentries at the same time, getting up to about 4 gates. And Ezroll repositioning those spine crawlers in a way to actually take out those destructible rocks. At the 8-minute mark, Ezroll decides to take his lair on 1 gas and actually has his 3rd base up. Now, taking a lair timings are extremely important, especially as you add additional gases. So Ezroll deciding to take that lair and throwing down some additional extractors in order to utilize some gas timings. Since he's taking 4 gas, I wouldn't be surprised to see any kind of Mutalisk play or any kind of heavy Infestor play. But the thing is that he still isn't mining a whole lot of gas. He still has 1 guy on this extractor, and he needs to add additional guys on these other extractors. He's done so down here, but he's still negating his main. But it looks like he's starting to correct at least one of the geysers that are down here as this lair finishes. Now with warp gates about done, he's converting some of these gateways into warp gates, and he's got +1 completed and 5 gateways, and a pretty good sizable army. And with the crunching sound that we heard, we see an Overseer warping into the base. Some additional drones, an Evolution Chamber, and a Roach Warren coming down for Ezroll. So what it looks like is we're going to see some upgraded Roaches, but with 4 gas, it's quite a bit of gas in order to be able to utilize that, unless he decides to do 2 Evolution Chambers or add an additional tech. A Robotics Facility going down for Pinnapple. And we see the conga line of units coming out of Pinnapple's base. Mostly a Stalker force with some Zealot Sentry reinforcement. Also, Burrow, if I haven't done this yet, is almost halfway done. So it looks like he's going to be utilizing some Burrow to Roaches. +1 Zerg attack and Roach speed. +1 ranged Zerg attack and Roach speed are on the way. Now this Overseer still just chilling, not doing too much here, as Pinnapple decides to add a Twilight Council. Now I'm kind of nervous a little bit for Pinnapple as a fellow Brotos. You might be teching a little bit too much into 2 different directions, but Pinnapple may be utilizing this to get some additional upgrades and just to keep his options open. So Pinnapple taking a very forward position right now, and Ezroll building 9 Roaches on top of the 7 or 8 that he already has. If we go into the unit counting station, workers are fairly even. We see an Overseer dropping down a Changeling in the base, and we see actually Pinnapple taking a worker lead, but it looks like they tied it up with that initial batch that's right there. Now with an additional batch of Warpins being done, we see Pinnapple walking right up into that base. A missed force field right here. You can see that just barely. It might be something to check out, but we see those burrowed Roaches, and Pinnapple really doesn't have any kind of response to that. So smartly, he decides to back off. 2nd Evolution Chamber coming down for Ezroll, and +1's about to be done. We see Blink about halfway done, +2 weapons about a third of the way done, almost halfway done as well. But the thing is that Pinnapple needs to be able to get some detection. Now Pinnapple deciding to take out this Overseer, but again, unless he's got some detection, which he's supply blocked right now, he's not going to be able to utilize some of the... He's not going to be able to properly react to these Burrowed Roaches. Now he does have an Observer with his base, taking out those creep tumors and keeping Ezroll on the blind. And +1 armor is just started for our Roach opponent. And Pinnapple, or Pinnapple, deciding to poke up a little bit and see what he sees there. He actually sees a slew of Zerglings and Roaches come in. And Ezroll definitely getting the win of that. Being able to take out a Stalker or a unit here and there without any kind of response is definitely what Ezroll wants to do. And as Ezroll's macro kicks in, he's about 20 feet ahead, producing 13 Roaches and getting an infestation pit, just as Pinnapple's +2 and Blink start rounding up. Now the thing is that when you take any kind of forward position, it's very important to make sure that the structures that you use are either hiding something or in a position where they can be defended, because they're just free pylons that Ezroll is able to take, bringing Pinnapple very, very close to being supply blocked. Now we see +1 Zerg Carapace about 2/3 of the way done in Pathogen Clan, so it looks like we're going to see some Roach Infestor play. We also see a very devious Spire coming from Ezroll, so he's either getting prepared for Hive Tech or he's utilizing it just in case of a Colossus transition. Now Ezroll doing a very good job of taking a 4th base and clearing out the base that's there. And Ezroll being able to take all these free pylons. If we go to the Resources Lost tab, Zerg's lost quite a bit, and I must have missed something, obviously. Well, some of the buildings that are done in the beginning and some of the random units here and there, but it seems like I'm missing something. Interesting. Now, as we see some of the additional tech paths be flushed out and Immortals being pushed out for our Protoss hero, as we see these Zerg running in, and we see a Zergling run by over here trying to take out what's here. Ezroll doing a very good job of splitting Pineapple's attention. We see some force fields down, making the attack concave not as sufficient as he wanted to, and the Roaches decide to back off. Now Pinnapple doing a good job of actually defending and not losing too much, and continuing to build probes, so I definitely have to applaud him for that. Now while this was going on, a Twilight Citadel, or Templar Archives, was completed, so we might see some Templar for feedback, or we might see some Archons. 21 more Roaches on the way. And we see Tunneling Claws so that Ezroll can fully utilize his burrowed Roaches, and we see +2 Zerg ranged weapons and +1 Zerg attack or flyer attack. So he hasn't built any kind of units with it, or he hasn't built any kind of units, so we don't know if he's going Muta or Corruptor yet, but he's getting some upgrades for those guys as a Hive is on the way. And as I'm talking and yapping, we see some Photon Cannons being put down into main, and Twilight, or excuse me, and Psionic Storm about halfway done, adding some additional gateways. Pinnapple also recompleting the wall and temporarily supply blocking our Zerg opponent. And one small micro error, Pinnapple with these rallying probes was able to kind of get these stuck, so hopefully he'll be able to correct that momentarily, and he does. Now one small wall, or one small opening in the wall right here can still be susceptible to Zerg run-bys, but it looks like Ezroll has abandoned Zergling production altogether and is actually getting Roaches. So now Pinnapple, we see an engagement in the middle of the map, and he decides those amount of Roaches may not be worth it, deciding to throw down some force fields to make sure some of the stalkers can attack, utilizing Burrow to pull back just slightly and be able to go home. Now Pinnapple needs an observer with his army to be able to effectively counter against that. Now both players are really getting set up into their macro mode, being able to establish additional bases. And we see some additional infestors coming out for Ezroll. They're about 10 seconds away from completing. As Zerg attack flyers level 1, we see +3 Protoss attacks and a Colossus coming out. Now, a lot of those Roaches couldn't be able to properly get in the fight, since mostly about the first 2 rows were able to get done. Now, Greater Spire and 9 Corruptors on the way, so this is what Ezroll had going all along. We see Gravatic Drive being researched out of the Colossus Den, and a Warp Prism. I think that's... I thought that was the Observer upgrade, but it is not. It is the Warp Prism upgrade. So he's utilizing to get Warp Prism in order to increase his Warp Prism speed, as we see a small engagement out of here now. Ezroll trying to exchange, trying to barrel down and bust down the wall of Pinnapple. And he's actually getting deflected, chasing those guys home. Now we also see 2 Stargates on the way for Pinnapple, so I'm actually intrigued with utilizing the Warp Prism. Likely we might be able to see some micro here to be able to keep the Templar safe, or to be able to get in and get out with some good drop tactics, excuse me. A 5th base going down for Ezroll, as Ultralisk Cavern and Greater Spire are about to start and be completed. Now, I think the Ultralisk Cavern is a mistake. I think Ezroll is trying to utilize the extra money that he has, but he doesn't have any kind of investments in the melee range. If he was going as we see 9 Broodlords morph in. If we see a lot of Ling or Muta play at the beginning, an Ultralisk transition might be worth it, but I think the Ultralisk is just a waste of money. Now, additionally, we see our Protoss player taking a 4th base, so both players are taking their bases at reasonably times, and we see a battalion of Zealots coming in here and doing some damage to this 4th base of Ezroll. But these roaches look like they're going to come in and going to be able to clean up before they actually take out this expansion. Very, very close, though, actually taking it down to about 345 health. Now, we see the Infestors along with the Broodlords. Now, the thing is that there is Ezroll's ability to be able to be effective. So, if he doesn't keep the rest of his army with it, he was able to get that sniped off pretty well. But Pinnapple doesn't have a whole lot of vision of that happening. Some Warp Prism tactics going on along the back. Now we see 2 Void Rays about to complete. Charge for Archon or for Zealots are about to be done, and we see the Fleet Beacon just completed. So it looks like we might see some Mothership play, or we might see some Carriers, but both players are about maxed out as Ezroll decides to engage with the Broodlords. And he decides to walk up there. We see some Blink going on underneath, and with a critical mistake of some of the Templar casting feedback on some of the Infestors, casting Storm on some of the reinforcing Roaches that are coming in. I don't know if Pinnapple has enough to be able to hold this. Blinking for taking out some of the additional Broodlords, focus firing some of them, but the amount of Roaches that are there are just too many. Actually, Pinnapple plummeting down to 94 food, throwing down some additional Storms, and these Immortals are there trying to clean up some of the air units, but there's not really a whole lot of proper anti-air. Just a couple fungals. These Void Rays are actually doing quite a bit of damage and actually hopefully going to be able to repel some of this attack that's here. But looking at Ezroll's production, he has forsaken the Roach and actually has 10 Ultralisks in queue. And again, just like I said, what are those Ultralisks going to do against these Void Rays? We see these Void Rays actually able to stop the attack, but at what cost? Now, Protoss still has all of his infrastructure. He still has about 64 workers, but he doesn't have any kind of bankroll. He won't be able to reinforce this kind of army this quickly. We also see a Mothership on the way. So it looks like Pinnapple is transitioning into a Stargate force, which is actually going to do very well against this. There's not a whole lot of proper anti-air from Ezroll, just Infestors for Fungal. Now we see a slew of Roaches and Zerglings come in, and the Ultralists decide to make themselves known with their +3 armor upgrades, so they got 4 all together, but these 4 Void Rays are actually going to be able to attack these guys without any kind of defense. Now, the thing is, though, is that Ezroll, these Ultralisks and these ground units are too much for these Void Rays to be able to fully clean up, so it looks like this base is not going to be around for that much longer. And these Void Rays aren't being microed properly, so Ezroll decides to take that base and just GTFO. Actually engaging some of the Zealots that are down here, doing quite a bit of splash damage, but these Void Rays are charging up on these Ultralisks, and they're actually going to take them out pretty quickly. Which is unfortunate. Ezroll being able to burrow 1 to try to be able to save it, but with that Observer coming in, it doesn't look like it's going to stick around that long. 8 more Ultralisks being produced. I greatly think that this is a mistake from Ezroll. Look at how much anti-air is there. There's only 4 Infestors. Now, they can be able to spawn about 5 Infested Terrans apiece, but you want to utilize the Infestor for some of their bigger abilities, so like the Fungal Growth or Neural Parasite, especially as this Mothership, as it warps in and it lags my computer. So, as we see on the Wii, we see an additional, or we see that Nexus being rebuilt for our Protoss hero Pinnapple as he's starting to get +1 air weapons and +3 ground armor. And it looks like that Ezroll is deciding to go mainly Ultralisk. Now it looks like I may have missed a counterattack that's going up here in order to take out a base, so looks like 2 bases were taken down by Pinnapple as this was going on. Lots of action being going on by both opponents. And we actually see the Mothership in, and from Ezroll's view, all he can see is a unit that he can't attack. So he has to pull back. We see Gravitic boosters coming from Pinnapple, being able to get some observer speed and actually throwing down some fungals, being able to see some of the closed units. But it's not quite enough. Those Void Rays are going to do lots and lots of damage without any kind of response from Ezroll. And as we see, Ezroll finally starting to build some anti-air, building 6 Corruptors. But at this point in the game, it might not be enough. But he's able to take out this 4th base again from Pinnapple. These Void Rays going to work. Pinnapple morphing in some Archons after some Storms being thrown down, and +3 Zerg, or +3 Protoss armor is on the way. So as we can kind of see it stabilizing, the grave error that Ezroll is doing is that his army composition is poor based on what Pinnapple is doing. He's building a lot of Ultralisks, and Ultralisks can't do anything against anti-air. I mean, they can kind of slash dance at it, wiggle their butts. But Ezroll's doing a great job of making sure that Pinnapple is very limited on his resources. Pinnapple only has 1 mining base, and it's about 2/3 of the way done. So the fact that he keeps killing this base makes it very difficult for Pinnapple to be able to secure a lead. So we kind of see both these players deciding to side up their opponent. Now Ezroll making a slight mistake and building some additional... No, he decided to cancel the Ultralisk, which was larva expensive, and be able to build some more Infestors and some Corruptors. We see an engagement over here, and again, these units are engaging in a manner that they can't. We see a Vortex coming in from our Protoss player, actually warping in quite a bit of the anti-air, and all of the Protoss units. So Ezroll decided to throw some Infested Terrans into the mix, trying to see what it actually does with that, but were those Infested Terrans destroyed? We see an engagement going down. Ezroll throwing some corruption onto the mothership, but it's not enough. Pinnapple actually taking a food lead for the first time in a long time in this game, taking out that Ultralisk before it was able to do any damage to the warping in units. So Ezroll actually is on the defensive. Those Infestors scuttling all that wasted energy. Pinnapple actually finally able to re-expand here and be able to do so safely as he's chasing down some of these final units that are here. These Infestors throwing down some Desperation Fungals, trying to run away from this army that's going against it. And Pinnapple actually taking a slight lead. Ezroll again building some Roaches and some Corruptors. But are able to be taken out as this force runs in. These Spine Crawlers are very, very nervous about walking fully down there, and Pinnapple again taking out this 4th base. If we go into the income tab, both players are pretty broke. As a quick scan over there, Ezroll is on one of his last mining bases, and it's quickly going to be taken out by this force from Pinnapple. Additional Roaches and some Corruptors being morphed in. We see some Archons being warped in. And we got a battalion of Zealots just chilling over here as the primary fighting force of Pinnapple rolling in and taking out this 3rd. And we see one final Valiant attempt being located over here, but it's not going to be enough. Brilliant's attacking. We see one pretty good fungal locking down some of the Void Rays and some of the other units there, but again, another Vortex taking some units from the high ground and the low ground right there. Actually canceling out and nullifying a lot of Ezroll's units right there. Throwing in some additional Archons and a lot of the other units that are there. And we see the units pop out. They're all clumped up, and they died pretty quickly. So Pinnapple able to be resilient with the type of play that's being done, and Ezroll decided to tap out with a GG right there. So Ezroll did it right. He did it perfectly, except when he built that Ultralisk Cavern. He decided that he was going to Raffle Stomp Pinnapple with Ultralisk, but what he didn't realize is that Pinnapple transitioned into 2-gate play with some Void Race and some Mothership, and he couldn't properly defend against that. So good job to Pinnapple for being resilient, and great job on the tech switch. Ezroll, you'll get him next time.